This is Real Talk, the Customer Insights Show with Jenn Vogel, a top-rated live stream and podcast in the market research and insights industry. We're live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Join Jenn and her guests for this live discussion around topics that will help you understand your customers better. Also available on podcast channels. This live stream is presented to you by Vox Pop Me, the leader in video research and ranked #1 in qualitative research by Grit 2 years running. Here's today's live conversation.
Hello, insights professionals, marketers, and everyone who wants to understand their customers better. I'm Jenn Vogel. Welcome to the show. Certainly, there are problems in any industry, and market research is no different. Of course, there's a lot of positive things happening. We talk about those all the time. We'll get to some of those in today's show also, but I want to spend the majority of today's show focusing on some problems that exist and that may hinder us from producing better market research, making better decisions, all that good stuff. It's a big topic for sure, so let's dive into it. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Sebastian Schuliaquer, Insights Director at Kellogg, to help us understand and maybe even fix some of these common problems. So welcome, Sebastian.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a very hot topic and very close to my heart.
Yes, I'm excited. And actually, Sebastian and I are going to be together in Chicago at the end of this month for Insights Marketing Day. So I want to give a plug for that session. And so maybe this conversation today will be a little preview of what we'll be talking about in that session along with Michelle Gainsley from McDonald's and Jennifer Pembroke from Wells, Blue Bunny. So really looking forward to that.
Same here.
Well, let's dive in. To get us started, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your career in the insights industry?
Sure. I've been doing research for over 25 years, to be honest. I know that I don't look that old, but I'm that old. I started working in insights, doing interviews, like knocking doors back in the days when people asked you, which brand of powder detergent do you use? I was one of them. And that was 25 years ago. And I've been working with major FMCGs. I work for Colgate-Palmolive. I work for Kraft Foods. Now I'm working for Kellogg. I work at business units, so I work with the market. Then I work with a region, with a group of markets. I work with weird regions. And now I work at Global. So I am currently the global director for global insights at Kellogg Company. So I have the opportunity to see one or two research in my career from any possible aspect, trust me.
It sounds like it. I'm not going to ask you which one was your favorite company to work for. I won't put you on the spot.
No.
But yeah, some really great experience there. And, I guess tell us a little bit about the role that you as an insights professional play today and how has that evolved in the 25 years that you've been in the business?
Yeah, I always define insights people as matchmakers. We are the matchmakers between brands, products, ideas, and consumers. Like we try to understand how this works, how that relationship is built, and how you create it, how you take it to the next level, how to develop, how to maintain it, and make it durable across along the years. I think that we are as professionals in the consumer insight area now more than ever. We need to be in tune with pop culture. That it is very important for us to be super connected with what is happening there, which are the innovation, how the consumer is evolved, how they're behaving. I think that. Oops.
We'll roll with it. We are live.
We'll roll with it. Sorry. Yeah.
No
so for me, it's very important to have this knowledge of what is happening there and being able to be connected with different sources of data. That it wasn't here 25 years ago. Today we have social media listening, we have reviews, we have AI technology, we have syndicated research, we have online research, we have qualitative in the more traditional way, we have observation. Today we have evolved to have more sources of connection and understanding of this consumer in how to make this matchmaking work for our clients. In my case, the global director of breakfast and salty snacks at Kellogg, or your brand manager, your director of brands, like how to make this matchmaking possible. That is our role. And that role has evolved in the last years because we have never had so much data available, in a point that it could be a little bit overwhelming sometimes.
Oh, totally overwhelming. I think that's been such a huge topic of conversation in the industry, especially the last few years. It's like, how do you actually bring all that data together and make sense of it? And I love hearing whenever I talk to consumer insights professionals, like everyone has this sort of different description of what an insights person is. I love your description of the matchmaker. I've heard translator, in that same vein of having to bring all that data together. I've heard psychologist, right, of like actually digging in and trying to understand people's behavior and mindsets. So, but that it all comes back to the fact that we have more and more access to mountains of data, and your role in making sense of it and making recommendations based on that is changing with every new data source available.
It is changing and it's evolving. And the reality is that one of our biggest challenges is where all these pockets of data and all these sources of data, suddenly they stop talking to each other. Suddenly you have brands that they have not such a strong equity with high share. Like, how is it even possible? Like, it's more complicated nuances to data because we are humans, and we love to be contradictive. So the same thing is happening with data. You have never heard a time that people are more concerned of personal security. And we are at the same time that we are posting everything we do in social media. So how you reconcile both points of view? Right. So that contradiction that we are seeing as human beings, as consumers, the same thing is happening with data. Data is taking us in different ways, in different routes, and sometimes there is a lot of contradiction. And making sense of those contradictions, that is where the insight is. That is exactly where is the sweet spot on how to create that perfect match between a consumer, a brand, an idea, or a service.
That's really interesting. So when you kind of start to identify those contradictions in the data, like where do you even start to try to make sense of it and find that match? I guess maybe it depends.
Well, it depends, but the reality is that we need to go for the fact that we are emotional beings, and we need to understand how the feelings and the nuances of those feelings. So like that idea of one solution fits all, it's not possible anymore. Like data and the power that we have today with technology allowed us to make segmentation of one person. So you like there is a whole group of people that says that segmentation is a thing from the past, given the fact that we can go directly to talk to one consumer in a singular way. So I think that today we spend too much time focusing about the facts. We need to transcend a little bit of the facts. So we need to evolve from the what to the so what. And I think that in the so what, it's where we as professionals, as insights professionals, is where we have to concentrate. Sometimes we devote too much time to the fact and not to the so what.
I love that. Go from the what to the so what. Somebody write that down. We're quoting Sebastian on that.
But it's a reality. Like I've been in meetings. Like I was talking to one of my clients. I said, like, listen, I can bring more facts. I can bring more accurate facts. I could spend the next 2 months digging in data, but it's not going to change the so what. So you need to decide where you invest your time, your effort, your sweat, your longest hours in front of a computer. In the what or in the so what. With the part that we are very good professionals, and all our partners in crime, our suppliers, it doesn't matter if they are big or small, they know what they're doing. So instead challenging their facts, let's concentrate in how we turn these whats in so whats.
Yeah. So that brings up a really interesting question then of, with all the access to data and all this great technology at our fingertips, like how do you balance the mix between that human involvement and the technology? Like what's the right balance?
I think that we are in a very tough place now because we tend to confuse observations with insights. And I think that we need, as professionals, we know the difference. We know that people wanted to eat healthy food. That is a fact. People don't knowing what healthy food is, that's the beginning of an insight. So I think that if the fact doesn't take you to anywhere, it's just a fact. We need to balance more the unspoken things, the things that they are not there. We need to understand that everybody could provide alternative facts to a certain phenomenon. So we need to be very conscious of what we are doing. We need to recognize the facts, and then we need to really invest the time in doing the analysis. One of the things that is happening today, and you will see with your other professionals in the industry, is that we are desperate to have fast answers. Like you have a question, and now you have, like, when I started 25 years ago, people commissioned a research and they had the patience to wait a month to get results. Now, if you have someone that is patient, probably will wait until the end of the week. And that means that we have shrunk the time that we devote to collect the facts, but at the same time, we have decreased the amount of time that we devote to analyze the data, to analyze the facts. And I think that is where we need to backtrack a little bit. AI could read, summarize, put together, but it will never tell you an insight. You still need the human touch. You still need to have a conversation with consumers. I would say that today, more than ever, qualitative research is extremely important because with all this AI, with all the social media listening, with all the technology, with all of that, we have, I would say, limitless access to facts. But we can even say, like, why? And we can have an idea. But nothing beats a good conversation with a consumer. Nothing beats a good observation. So, like, even today, like if you see the how technology is being used, like you add open-ended questions, people answer a video, and then the AI analyze that video. But nothing beats a good face-to-face conversation with consumers about something. So I think that the balance, it's there. Like, we need sometimes to listen to the consumers with less filters. And when I said less filters, it's like not through big bulks of data. Talk to consumers. You are a consumer. You know more or less what is happening. And as a good researcher, you are connected to, you are more aware that some of the people why you do certain things because you ask the question yourself. So you end up understanding a little bit more human behavior. I think that today, more than ever, we need to really analyze behavior and focus on behavioral science rather than just big bulks of data.
Yeah, and that is so tricky because, as you said, we just have access to so much data, and the people that you're trying to deliver those insights for don't have a lot of patience.
It is quite complicated, like to bring to bring an answer to a CMO that has so many questions. And I remember when I first joined the global team, people said, like, the elevator speech, like, and really a CMO doesn't have more time than the elevator speech. So you need to select what you're going to say. You can give a fact and make them realize what they're going to need to do with the fact, or you can have a so what. And if it's so interesting, they will ask you for the fact. I
That's
think
really interesting.
that is how I end up playing with the patience of my audience. Basically focusing in, let me tell you my recommendation. And then we departed from there. If you want to listen more, I will give you the facts. But if you start with a fact, people will start challenge you the fact, and you will have a conversation about facts. And you don't want to have that. You want to have a conversation on the so what, not on the what. So for me, it's always important to start every conversation, not with a fact, but with a recommendation.
Yeah.
And then you depart from there.
That makes sense because you kind of need to buy yourself some more time, a little bit. And
Exactly.
also, what you were saying before, there's a lot of contradiction in the facts. Right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that meaning is really the key piece of, like, what does that really mean? What are we going to do with that information? And
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And also, as professionals in the insight industry, every time that someone asks you a question or commission you a research or something, um, that is where the research starts. That is where you need to start asking questions. It seems like very, like, yes, everybody does that. It's not necessarily true. Sometimes, like I have done so many pre-tests of communication that, people, like my suppliers, they don't even ask, what are you trying to do? What is your media plan? Like, how you gonna use these? Like, which is the role of these? Like, we lost sight of asking questions. Like, we need to devote the time to really understand what is the question that we want to answer, so we can answer with a recommendation, not with a fact.
Right. Yeah, and I guess too, like, does that, like, how does that feed into, what methodology you're using? Because, to your point, there's so much data out there. There's we can have access to facts, as you say, or quantitative data instantly.
Instantly.
Qualitative is so important, but it takes some more time. Like, how do you determine what methodology is best suited to answer whatever question you're faced with in the moment?
Exactly. And we have this expression in Spanish that I love. It says, use a bazooka to kill a mosquito. It is hard to translate, but it's very appropriate. So, like, you always need to do the full question so you don't end up having a bazooka to kill a mosquito. Questions, like, you can answer in many ways, but business questions and business actions, there is always one right way to answer them. And I would say that we as a professional, sometimes we jump into answering a question instead asking another one.
Yeah.
Like, why what exactly do you want to to know? That is always my question. Which type of decision do you wanna take? What is the risk in that decision? So like you can put a dimension of what type of answer do you want
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
and
makes
which methodology it's the most appropriate.
right, right. So how do you think we've gotten to this place of like, just get the question, okay, rush to get the answer, deliver the fact, like move on to the next? Like, how did we end up here from where we were not that long ago?
I would say that one of the things that happen is that with consumers being more vocal than ever, empowered by technology, you don't need to ask. They are telling you. They are writing on every single piece of review, Twitter, Facebook shares. Consumers are more vocal today than ever, especially the new generations. If you think that millennials were vocal, wait, Gen Z are way more. And they put videos to say what they think. This is the Gen Z is the generation of the storyteller. So what is happening now is that we have this idea that what they are saying, it is exactly how we're going to do the matchmaking, and it's not like that. I think that we start losing patience. I think that there are some decisions that they were very based in facts, and then you have the industry to try to answer faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, that we are today in a point that you can program in the morning a questionnaire and have a full report by the end of the afternoon, and none of these a researcher or an analyst was involved. It is like if you were an expert in this industry, you design AI methodologies, things like that, but you don't read the data and analyze the data. It is like the data will analyze itself. And that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why you have so many DIY platforms, which I love. I think that they are fantastic and a fantastic tool, but the type of question that a company like Kellogg has that could be answered by an omnibus or by a short research, and at the end of the day take a decision, they are very limited. Like, we really have bigger questions. We are taking bigger and more complicated decisions. That's something that a survey from any platform that you want could answer at the end of the day, with zero intervention of an analyst that knows exactly what we are looking for. So I think that we are I think that we tend to confuse analytics also with insights, because we are kind of yin yang, like insights and analytics. One without the other cannot live. But we became suddenly we have the technology to have very, very rapid facts, and we don't have the patience of working in the so what.
Mm.
This is the world of suppliers selling you dashboards, and you can have your dashboard and you do your own analysis. And you said, yes, so basically I'm hiring a company that before I hire them with a question in mind, now I have a way to answer the question myself. So at in a point that technology is commoditized, that everybody has a DIY platform, so what is your competitive difference? If you are in a supplier position, how you do matchmaking with your service and the companies. And I think that we're going to see very soon the comeback of big strategists or analysts that really make sense of the data.
Mm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
that an industry that does that very well is the finance industry. Think about it.
Mm.
That they mix a lot of facts, but they devote time to say what all these things means.
Sure, sure. And so I guess that's really the crucial role of the insights professional, right? It's to turn those facts into insights. And I guess what's our responsibility as an industry to encourage that patience? And I think it's like the advent of the technology that we have in the space and all those DIY tools, like it does shorten the timeline of getting that first step, right? Of what you describe as facts. I love that. Getting the
Yeah.
fast facts, you need to shorten that timeline. So then how do you kind of encourage your internal clients or your external clients, if you're a full service researcher or something like that, to have the patience needed to get the really meaningful insights from that data?
Yeah. What what I have what I have encountered lately is that I I decided to give the time for the analysis to happen. I carve that time there. When someone has a question that needs to be answered with, within hours, like somehow, I always try to say, which type of decision do you want to make? Because that's another thing that happened. Because the times and the cost of doing research has decreased drastically, the amount of research, of request, of some of our internal clients don't want it to make a decision and leave it in the hands of the consumers. I always said research or consumer research tells you what you could do, not what you should do. What you should do should be driven by your strategy. So how to do the strategy, that is where you use your research. So I also been trying to pressure my internal clients to not to to be bold and take decisions, but also not to use research as a commodity. Like, I want to take a research, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to take any type of decision. And like sometimes I said, well, this is not a decision for the consumer. This is your decision. Like, like a packaging design. I said the consumer will tell you which one looks better in the shelf. Consumer will tell you which one looks yummy or which one calls their attention, which one tells the story better, but they won't tell you which one you need to use. You need to make that decision yourself. So that is another thing. Like, I said no to a 50% of the research that is being requested to me. I said, like, that is not material for a research. Like, you need to be very honest with your clients. You need to
Yeah.
say, like, like, this is not a good use of research time. This is something that you could derive from your own knowledge, from past research. So that is also important. Understanding that research in a company like Kellogg is an ecosystem of knowledge. So not every question needs to be answered with a specific research. And once that research is done, the question is answered, you throw that in the garbage and you start from the beginning. No, we have a knowledge agenda. So in the knowledge agenda, you try to organize a little bit the discussion and really understanding what you need to do. And always try to reduce the amount of research. I know that my suppliers hate when I say, like, no, we are not doing extra research. But the reality, what it happens is that I reduce the amount of repetitive research and I increase the amount of more foundational or multi-question research. And that is where a supplier or a business partner can bring the A game, because it is in the analysis where is the key. Like, when I started, we always check that people really answer the questions. Like, we were obsessed with fieldwork quality. Today, it's not even in people's mind. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like before, when I was an interviewer, I had a supervisor that went and rechecked a very fairly amount of interviews that I did. That figure doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like try to filter a little bit of the questions and like devote money to intellectual work rather than manpower. It is always important.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of brings you full circle to the conversation about all the data that we've got and being able to bring that all together, because if that's done properly, you don't need that repetitive research, because chances
Exactly.
are you've got the answer to your question somewhere already.
Exactly. And that's another thing. I realize day by day that we we need to build stronger, lasting relationships with with vendors and with business partners. You know, it's obvious. You know, we try to do that, but like sometimes like I receive calls from, why don't you work with us? Why don't you give us an opportunity? And I said like, yes, but I need the whole thing. You know, I want to have a vendor that can handle everything.
Mm.
You know, like you have people say, oh, I'm an expert in product testing. And I said, what about concept? No, I only do product. Mm, what about packaging testing? No, I do sensory, or I do advertising, or I don't even know what a market share is. And so like I think that suppliers and vendors need to paint a whole map, because the like what we are looking in people in my side is long lasting relationships,
Mm-hmm.
things that you build knowledge. You know, it's we don't want research providers, because at the end of the day, that research providers, you can even go to Google survey, or you can go to, like, if you think the largest fieldwork company in the world is between Google and SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friends at SurveyMonkey, and I said like, you realize that you are the largest by far company of fieldwork in the world, and nobody knows your analytical capabilities. Like, you know, like I get charts and reports, but it's very hard to get someone to interpret what it's there. And that's another thing. Like when you start working with someone for the first time, it takes, I would say, between a year and two to really build that knowledge of your business, your implications, for them to anticipate your questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another thing. Like when you have a DIY thing, or like that relationship, it's very fragile,
Sure.
because at the end you end up seeing like who has it faster and cheaper, not who is the best in analyzing the so what.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that is what a company like Kellogg is looking. Kellogg, Coke, McDonald's, you name it. We are looking for the so what. So we are hungry. We are hungry for this type of long-lasting relationships with people, that they can see your business from a bigger point of view, rather than answer if that TV commercial will work or not. Like every time that I said, okay, we need to pretest this TV commercial, I'm waiting for the first one that to say to me, TV? Really?
Yeah, totally. I mean, what
But
you're
then
talking
the
about.
conversation is always, oh, we can do it in 24 hours.
Right. Right.
And I said, like, yeah, I'm sure it could be done.
Right. I mean, what you're talking about here is a partnership, right? Like it always kind of makes me kind of tilt my head a little when I see these reports where it's like, oh, these are the vendors and these are the buyers. Like, when did we become vendors and buyers? Like, I think some of my favorite clients that we work with, they're partners, right? We work
Exactly.
closely with them. We partner with other vendors, other suppliers, and technology partners too.
Yeah.
create that
Yeah.
ecosystem that you need. And I think that's a shift that I'd love to see us go further in that direction.
I'm
But
sure we are going. I can feel it that we are going there. We are going in that direction.
I think so too. Well, to round out the conversation, maybe some final thoughts. What are some positive things that are currently happening in the industry?
I think that there are many, many. I think that the, you know, again, contradiction. The amount of data that it's there, it's ginormous. I think that today doing an analysis on content is way easier than 10 years ago. I think that the possibilities of putting different sources together, it's ginormous. I've seen crazy methodologies that do face recognition, like do we have unlocked a huge power of consumer understanding. With that comes a big responsibility of bringing what does it mean and how you make that evolve. But just imagine, like when I first started doing a research in 3 countries, like you needed to have an agency in every country. Today, I work with a great business partner that is based in Chicago, and these people do a research in India without even going there, which it's mind blowing because the possibilities are expanding, not contracting. So I think that great times comes to our industry. We I think that we are about to to arrive to the tipping point that we are not as fascinated with technology as we were a few years ago, and now we will be more interested on how to squeeze real insights out of those. I think that that is the next frontier. But to like imagine, like before you needed to spend 20 hours of a project just designing and making sure that everything works. Today, that has reduced to an hour, and then you have all those 19 hours to invest in your analysis. It's great.
I think that is the real beauty of all the technology that's out there now, that it's speeding up and automating the things that can be automated, right?
Exactly.
Leaving more
Exactly.
room to do the things that can't.
Exactly. And I love, for instance, the AI methodologies or technologies that they write you a report. I will never send that to anyone. Never, because they don't make a sense. But it gives you a raw material to really make it work. I always said, like I was having a conversation with my friends from SurveyMonkey, that I think that they're brilliant sometimes. They really know what they really understand consumers in a very, very deep way, more than they show in their products sometimes. And one of the things is like, which is a different. It is really this type of things is AI, and the woman said like, no, no, that is not AI. That is just data. That is machine learning. That is not
Mm.
AI. So like, even having like a very, like, I love when a partner, like it seems like I'm doing advertising for SurveyMonkey, but I'm not. They tell you exactly the truth. They don't try to sell you. They say like, no, this is not. This is what it is.
Mhm.
And I think that I feel extremely positive about the future. I think that we are doing crazy advance in the digital interviewing process. So I can wait to do more global research and more qualitative research in the world. I want to be, like, now technology allowed us to be in the right moment of consumption without creating any disruption. So it is very exciting times to work in this industry.
It is exciting. Well, this has been a very exciting conversation. I love hearing your point of view. Really looking forward to seeing you in Chicago at the end
Same.
of this month. So we'll put a link in the comments for anybody who wants to come and join us in person for the
That would
first
be
time
great.
in forever. So thanks for coming on the
Thank you,
show.
Jenn. Nice talking to you.
You as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Please remember to rate and review the show, and we will see you next week for another episode.
Sure.